I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. If everyone could take their seats. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, April 8th, 2024, and this meeting of the General Government Committee is being held in a hybrid meeting format with virtual and in-person participation by members of the public, staff, and council. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. And a friendly reminder to all participants to please use their microphones at all times for the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. The land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas, more specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaties of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action in acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. So just before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that our colleague, Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford, had a birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Marilyn.
Are you what?
No, we're not doing it. More importantly, are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have the adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover for that? Moved by Regional Councillor Lee. Please vote on that. Standing by. There it is. That passes. Excellent. Okay, next we have, and let me just punch this up here, our consent agenda, and a large amount of items have been pulled, including 4.1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. Can I get a mover for the balance of the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Bauer. And any questions on that? Okay, all in favor, or sorry, please vote, I should say. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to the consent agendas that have been pulled. 4.1, the 2025 budget timetable has been pulled by Councillor Bauer and Councillor Henry. So we will start with Councillor Bauer, if you're ready. You want to turn your microphone on, please.
Thank you, Chair Tyler Moore, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick question about the timetable. So I noticed that it will move the entire process up. So we receive, I guess we have our budget meeting in December versus January, so it's a whole month. And I just I'm not sure I understand exactly why it feels rushed to me, so I just was hoping for an explanation of why everything is being moved forward.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Bauer. Some of the feedback that we received last year with the process, the new process, it was accelerated last year as well. And with the strong mayor powers, the budget needs to be done before February 1st. But some of the feedback that we received was around timing and the conflict with the holiday season and council being able to review properly. So also in collaboration with other municipalities, there are some that bring forward their budget in December. It has been a topic of discussion here for a very long time at the town to try and accelerate the budget to be before the calendar year starts. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to try and accelerate it again this year. Again, this is for discussion and the recommendation of staff. We looked at our internal timetables and it can be achieved, which would then alleviate some of the challenge or around the holiday season. But again, that's up for discussion with council.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to confirm, June 28th is the deadline for council to submit to the Director of Public Strategic Affairs and the mayor. So this is our council wish list, so to speak, that used to be in August?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And the veto override period is being condensed to 6 days. That's the recommendation. And was it 6 days for this year's budget too?
Through the chair, no, it was the veto, council veto override was 5 days.
Okay, so it's actually longer. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Chair Tyler Moran.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Next, we have Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, Councillor Bauer has asked the exact same question I had. And I would like to reiterate that, well, I understand finance has a job to do and respect it. Council has a job to do, and it's a little difficult for us to be able to communicate with our constituents about what they're seeing in the budget or not seeing in the budget. So this is where my concern lies, is to have that time to have communication with residents and hear from them during a very busy month in December. It seems, from my understanding, from the first budget I was part of process happened in February, then last year's process was in January, and now we're in December. So it keeps getting moved further back, and I understand why. We had a conversation just prior to this meeting from the finance side, but from the council side, it is a little difficult, and I just would like that noted. I do have a question with regards to the process where we are supposed to go back through the Director of
Public and Strategic Affairs?
Strategic Affairs, yes, thank you. Is that new, a new process?
Through the chair, with the changes under the budget process under strong mayor powers, it's a bit of a change, but this is what we did in 2024 budget as well.
So is this change a direction from the province, or is this change a direction from the mayor?
Through the chair. It's an internal, the direction is so that someone can consolidate, and it is the mayor's budget, so the information will go to the mayor. So the Director of Public and Strategic Affairs is consolidating to provide the information to the mayor.
Understood, but my question is, was the direction for this change from the province or from the mayor?
Through the chair, there's no direction given by the province at all. We are proposing that through our internal budget process.
Understood. Thank you for your time.
Sorry. Okay. Any further questions on Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford? Birthday girl.
Thank you. But just to clarify, that position was not even around in the last budget, correct? It became a position in the last budget, right?
Through the chair, it wasn't the director position, it was the manager position. So that position, it still consolidated and provided the information to the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can just add some additional clarity, and perhaps this can help address some of Councillor Henry's questions as well. The intention of this process is to ensure that when the budget is being developed, that it captures the asks of council through the budget process. So as councillors have their quote-unquote wish list items, they share that information with Public and Strategic Affairs so that, as Director Valentin said, it can be consolidated. That information is also, when there are changes that happen through the budget, that's all tracked by Public and Strategic Affairs as well. So it's really just intended to play a kind of coordination role between council and the finance staff on the budget.
Okay. Sure. Councillor Bauer is next in the speakers list. So, okay, yeah, maybe we'll go to Councillor Bauer next. All right, but yeah, I see you're back there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a follow-up. So Director Valentin has confirmed that staff feel confident that this budget timeline is achievable, which is wonderful, and I'll just clarify, this timetable is presented to us every year, so if we find out that it's a little too pushed or rushed or something didn't really feel right, it will be presented again next year, and it may be different then, right? Is that right?
Through the chair, yeah, this is the beginning of our process.
Yes.
Again, we do a debrief and we take feedback and we try to understand where there may be pitfalls or where there can be improvements. We did advance the budget last year to January. We were required under the strong mayor powers anyway because that timeline had been accelerated. Again, this is something that the town has been looking at to try and accelerate, so we are trying to take an opportunity to see if it is achievable.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't see any other first-timers, so we'll move on to Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Sorry, just a follow-up question to Ms. Cucciano. Even though it's been directed that we go back to the director to bring this forward, we still have the opportunity to speak with Director Valentine with regards to any budget concerns?
Through the chair to Councillor Henry, yes, of course. Councillors can speak to Director Valentin about any budget-related questions if they so wish.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Any other speakers on that one? So we need a mover for this item. We'll go with Regional Councillor Sterling Lay, sorry. If you could please vote. Excellent. Next up, we have, oh, sorry. Okay. That passes. Next on the agenda, we have 4.2, which is cash in lieu of Parkland, cash in lieu of parking and community benefits annual statement. First, we have Regional Councillor Lee on the speakers list. The floor is yours.
I had contacted the Director of Finance. I'm good, thank you, Chair.
Okay, excellent, thank you. The next poll was from Councillor Bauer.
Thank
Sorry.
you. So on page 14 of the agenda where it says, the town is currently unable to collect for any new community benefit as there is no CBC bylaw approved. So I just had two questions about it. One, I believe the deferral was because we were waiting to hear for some clarification from the province. So have we heard anything or do we have any update on that? And second, since that time to today, has there been any use or any potential to have used this benefit charge, but we couldn't?
And through the chair to Councillor Bauer. So your first question with regards to the province, I don't believe we've received any further details from the province at this time. Currently, the town does not have a CBC bylaw in place, but in discussions with the planning department, there have not been any applications that have come forward at this time that we would have received revenue under that bylaw.
Okay. Okay, good enough. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Next on our speakers list, we have Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Once again, Councillor Bauer has asked my question and we're good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on, so we need a mover for 4.3, which is the operating results. Can we have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Bauer. Please vote. Yes, sir, my mistake. 4.2, yes. 4.2, cash in lieu. And that carries. Thank you very much. Now 4.3. Which is the operating results and year-end reserve allocations. And this was pulled by Regional Councillor Lee. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Just from a numbers point of view, we had lumped together the eLexCon and casino revenues as a single number. Could you break those down individually?
Through the chair, the details on the Casino Ajax, the town received $4.7 million, and the Alexicon dividend and interest was a total of $2.1 million.
And then going forward, is it possible when we get this next year, the operating budget surplus summary, if we could actually break those down, would that cause any inconvenience for your team?
Oh, no, we can do that for you.
Okay, great.
Counselor.
But I just want to see exactly where the money coming in is from. So thank you very much. And thank you,
you.
Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I've actually had my questions answered moments before this meeting by the director, so I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on our speakers list, we have Mayor Sean Collier.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mayor.
Oh boy, echo. Actually, it's afternoon. My apologies. So just going back, I'm happy to see that we have a surplus, and it's a little over double what was forecast, which is always helpful. I wonder, it doesn't speak to the library surplus, and I'm wondering if the treasurer can start with tell us what the library surplus forecast is, please.
Just have a quick look here. We have not received formal notification from the library. I believe I have an estimate, about $89,000, which we would then receive next year.
Actually, I think according to theirs, that would go into their reserve. Up to the first 250,000.
Sorry, if you're through the chair to Mayor Collier. So last year's, so the surplus from 2022, there was $250,000 as part, there was over $300,000 that was surplus. 250 went into the library reserve, and the balance came into the town as a surplus. And yes, the $250,000 was put into a library reserve to help fund their makerspace.
All right, just want to make sure that's not part of this. Looking at the financial sustainability plan and your recommendation for the capital contingency and stabilization reserve, I understand our target is 5 to 15% for the stabilization reserve. What is it currently, please?
Through the chair, I think it's around 7 to 7.5%.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because that is a pretty healthy balance, and I don't know that we have fallen back in needing to use the stabilization reserve in many years. Is that correct?
Through the chair, not for deficits, as the town has been in a surplus position, but we do use the stabilization reserve to help fund things like our compensation review, the hiring of firefighters, things like that. We do have money set aside and put through the stabilization reserve that we use in that regard.
Okay, I guess my question is, are you going specifically by the financial sustainability plan with your recommendation, or is this an allocation that you personally feel where we should be putting this?
Through the chair, so we did not, so the two areas that I am recommending that the surplus be identified, first is we look at the stabilization reserve, did not feel that it needed to be topped up for that purpose, but looking at the compensation review and a couple of other things, we've identified and put money aside into the stabilization reserve for those purposes. We're not building the balance in the stabilization reserve for another purpose. And then the capital contingency reserve under the financial sustainability plan stipulates that we should top it up to its balance, its target balance of 2.5 million.
Okay. I know that we've had a lot of capital projects that have come in significantly over budget, and we'll be depleting those reserves potentially quicker than we had thought. So just want to make sure, or just understand the thought process. Okay. Just looking at page 22 of the agenda, the investment revenues, and I'm happy to see that that's approximately $6 million over what the estimate or the forecast was, or sorry, the budget was. Just wondering, does it make sense to have some form of reserve there for this was a good year, but if we were to have a not good year and needed to replace any potential lost revenue?
Through the chair to Mayor Collier, so built within our operating budget, we have $1.281 million that's built into the operating budget. Any investment income over and above that goes specifically to our capital reserves. So all of those funds have gone specifically to our capital reserves. I think that's the best place for them to go. It is supporting our capital program. So if we, in an instance, we did not meet our $1.281 million from the operating budget, then that funding would come out of the stabilization reserve.
That is an excellent answer. Thank you very much. Those are my questions, and I'm happy to move it, Chair.
Okay, I was just going to ask, would you like to move it, Mayor Collier? Okay, perfect. Do we have any other speakers? Okay. If everyone could please vote on item number 4.3. Okay, that passes. Thank you. Next, we have 4.5, which is the Property Tax Relief Program for low-income seniors and low-income persons with disability, which was pulled by our regional councillor, Marilyn Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did I say?
I,
Sorry.
I thank you for this report. I believe that I asked for this prior to the mayor doing the budget. Am I correct?
Through the chair, it was identified in the October 23.
Okay. So if I wanted to move a motion that this be included in the mayor's budget for this year, is that how I would do it? I feel like we just had at council a presentation on PACE, which is keeping seniors in their homes, and I feel like this is not a huge budget item for us, although we don't really know how many people will be eligible, because I don't think we really have that information, correct?
Through the chair, no, we don't.
No, but even at the top end, at 330, do you feel that this would impact our budget significantly if we were to include it in?
Through the chair to Councillor Crawford, the dollar values in of themselves don't look to be too large. It would depend on how many applicants that we would get. At this point, no, we would look to council to provide direction whether that should be included as part of the budget.
And the eligibility is pretty low, correct?
Through the chair, it is identified that the province identifies and provides that information to the town.
Okay, all right. I think it's glaring that there's only 2 municipalities in all of Durham region that doesn't provide that, and sadly, we're one of them. So I don't know if it's appropriate to make a motion now, or do I add that to my wish list?
Through the chair to Councillor Crawford. So are you looking for it to be included in the 2025 operating budget?
Yes.
Then that's something that you can put forward in your wish list and we can consider and then have that discussion with the mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions? We have Regional Councillor Dias.
Yes, thank you. It says here in the report that the homeowner has to be in receipt of the guaranteed income supplement. Do we know apparently what bracket they would be in, income bracket, to be able to get the guaranteed income supplement?
Through the chair to Councillor Dias, I do not know that information, sorry.
My understanding it's very low, which makes me question how many actually own properties that are struggling with that income at that income level. So is that some of the information that will come forward?
Through the chair to Councillor Dias, sorry, what information?
Well, in order to make a decision, about helping people with their taxes, which comes from other people's taxes, we need to understand exactly what we're looking at, particularly with persons who are on a low income. So we don't know what these top-ups that they're receiving from the government, what they're worth, what their value is, and how they can be helped, or what other programs there are. It's complicated.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'm wondering if that's something that we can have come forward with information in the future. Because we're receiving this, right?
Through the chair, yes. This is an information report.
Yep.
As provided, the direction that council had provided us to bring forward.
Right.
Again, if council would like to endorse this in the next budget, then that's some direction that you could bring forward through your council wish list, or make it known in the minutes here, and we can bring it forward through the mayor's budget.
I would be hesitant to endorse it if I don't have all of the information that you need to make the decision. That's what I'm saying. It says here that the report on the property tax program for low-income seniors is to be received, but there's a lot of information missing. So my question is, will we be able to get some more information to support this?
Through the chair to Councillor Dyes, if that's information that council's requesting in terms of how much income a senior gets on the GAINS programs or from the federal government, that's something that government relations can look up and provide to council, just so that you have access to that information.
I think that would be beneficial prior to making a decision. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. So on 4.4, moved by Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford. If we could have everyone vote, please. Excellent, that carries. Thank you so much. And moving on to 4.7, the Municipal Election Contribution Rebate Program. And that was pulled by Regional Councillor Lee first, and then we'll go to Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair. Last term, I was one of the vocal supporters of this program under the assumption that it would help future candidates in their campaigning and their fundraising. So I'm obviously torn. I still think it is a very useful program, but obviously the numbers are telling a different story where it seems to be incumbents taking the largest advantage of it. I think ultimately, no matter what we end up doing, it'll seem like incumbents are favoring incumbents. So I just want to make it clear, like I'm fully in support of this program. It's not a huge cost to the town. It elevates democracy and giving more people access to money they may not have, even though this report seems to indicate that the people who benefit most are incumbents. So I'd love to hear from the rest of council, anyone has an opinion, but I could go either way on this. I still think it's a very good program. I know when I first ran, I relied heavily on this, and so I'd love to hear some other opinions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Could you push your microphone? We'll go to Councillor Bauer, who had pulled this as well.
Thank you, Chair Tyler Moore, and thank you for your comments, Regional Councillor Lee. I agree, I'm a fan of this program, and people who have donated to my campaign in the past have certainly benefited from it. But the report, states some facts that are facts. So my question is, it does comment in the report about the promotion of the program to candidates prior to the election. Curious to know, was there any follow-up after the election to find out from the candidates, especially the ones who didn't use it, as to why they didn't use it?
To Councillor Bauer through the chair. As part of our informal debrief with candidates as they file their financial statements, we do often talk about various aspects of the election, what worked well, what did not work well. And with some of those conversations, obviously the contribution rebate program was one of the topics of conversation. For those who didn't make use of the program, it was indicated to us that there were a variety of reasons. I mean, this is all anecdotal, obviously, but some of the requirement of candidates to seek out or complete the necessary paperwork to have these contributions rebated, knowledge on the part of contributors about this particular program in spite of the efforts that we undertake to make sure that all candidates and electors are aware of this particular program. Some other some other candidates indicated that they didn't personally see value in the program, and so they opted not to participate. So there's a variety of different reasons for the lack of participation. And ultimately, it's up to candidates themselves and contributors to determine whether they wish to participate or not. We make the information available, but ultimately it's up to other participants to determine whether they take the necessary steps to seek a rebate or not.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my question, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have Regional Councillor Dias.
Thank you, Chair. I very much support this program. I've used it in every campaign that I've had. I've even had it one campaign fully funded and others at least by 50%. I don't recall anybody having a conversation about it with me afterwards, and found the paperwork pretty easy to handle. It was triplicate. You signed your name, and if you had a campaign office, they could do it there, or you just mail it to a certain address, and we'd make sure that the papers were properly submitted to the clerk's department. So it really is so important in community building when you can engage people during elections, which is what democratic governments are all about. And this really did engage people. Even if it was a $25 donation, they were part of that election and they got excited about it and they watched it till the end and they were pretty engaged at the different events. And I think that's what we were trying to do, because we don't get the national news at the municipal level. Provincial does, federal does, but municipal does not. Yet we make the day-to-day decisions for your life and for your families. And it's really important that people understand how it works. And I think it's incredibly important to continue this, and there has to be consistency too. And we've had a lot of changes in the amounts and this and that and the way it works, and I think it could really improve if we keep doing it and we consistently promote it and help candidates understand how useful it can be for their campaigns. And it does help with people who are just starting out for the first time. And I've heard arguments that there's no way it can help with a campaign, it's too expensive these days. Well, I don't buy signs every time I have a campaign. I have some from the previous one, if you think ahead. So there's some of the costs that you have for your first campaign aren't always there with you. There are less costs involved later on. So I think it's really important from the perspective of engaging our community and creating community and getting that interest back at the local level. So I don't believe that we should get rid of this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Regional Councillor Dias. Next, we have Mayor Sean Collier.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to take a bit of a different approach. I've also been here for 6 elections, same as Regional Councillor Dias, and I've used it in every election because it's available, and so I've used it. But I've also spoken against it the last 3 times I believe this has come forward, because, I mean, the numbers don't lie. Just look at the numbers. 56 people used this out of a eligible 85,000 eligible voters, I think. And the numbers are clearly declining. I remember a couple elections ago, we ran this whole Get Out the Vote campaign. I think it was 2010 maybe. And we managed to get the voter turnout up to almost 30%, I think. Now we're back down to 22%. So that didn't really work. And as Regional Councillor Lee pointed out, it does heavily favor the incumbents. I do have a personal problem with collecting tax dollars and using tax dollars to fund individual campaigns that the taxpayer just may not support. I've got my group that likes to follow me and clearly don't support me, yet their tax dollars are helping fund my campaign. And I'm sure that's not very popular. So I am happy to see this come forward. I find it very labor intensive at the end, having my team go ahead and I probably did most of these, a lot of them. And it's an issue. We do it because some of the residents, they want it, they're aware of it, and so they want the rebate and they're calling for the rebate. So of course we're going to do it. But I don't see it being a very good use of tax dollars. And I think the numbers have clearly shown that that's the case. I mean, you can see the decline. I think it's time to finally put this to bed. So I will support staff's recommendation.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Next, we have on the speakers list Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have never used this program until last term, and I was actually shocked at how many people gave me money. But at the end of the day, it's up to them to utilize it. If they don't want to utilize it, they don't have to use it. It's not that labor intensive. As soon as somebody gives you a donation, you give them the form, it's done. You don't have to do anything at the end of the day. So I feel like, I agree about the tax dollars, but it is up to the individual to actually access the program. So I think, and we all, at the beginning of an election, get the same package with the same information. So whether you're an incumbent or challenging an incumbent, it's not like you don't get the same information. So I feel like, 56 people used it, that was their choice. A lot of people didn't use it, that was their choice. So I'm in favor of keeping this.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. Many years ago, when I ran for election, I had felt this program was unfair to residents, because basically what's happening is you're paying into something that you have no say in. And regardless of who it is that's running, if you don't agree with that candidate, you're basically helping fund their campaign. That's the way I saw this, and I had a firm stance on it. Last election, I had one person who donated to me that was very adamant that I use the program. Since coming into office and having an opportunity to have discussions with Councillor Dyes, I'm seeing things from a different light now, because when we look at this program and we look at someone who is getting a lot of contributions, any candidate, from the developer side, and then we see a candidate who is doing a grassroots campaign, it's looking a little different where the money source is coming from and how they would go about getting that. Some candidates have a very strong grassroots campaign, and therefore they have that opportunity to use that program. So I am going to support keeping the program. I think that there's an opportunity here for some new candidates in the future, should they want to take advantage of it. And I would hope that we can help to get this information, maybe make it a little bit more clear if we can, to future candidates, younger candidates as well. The first time coming out, or a first time candidate coming out that doesn't have a lot of money. There's an opportunity here to help them with this process and be part of this election process. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Regional Councillor Sterling Lee.
Chair, did you want to speak on this? I'm about to introduce an amendment just before.
I was going to wait till the end, like I see most of the chairs do, but
You can only speak on the amendment once at the amendment. I just want to make sure you want to.
well, I'm in favor of the program because in every election I've ran, we've used it, and I know there's residents that, take the time to work within the rules. These are the rules. You don't have to participate. You can lay low if you want, which I've had people say that. They go, no, I'm good. I don't need the rebate. I've had other people that have been very organized about it and got back, and that's their way of doing it every election. So with respect to those reasons, I'm going to support keeping the program. So there you go.
So on that note, Chair, I'd like to amend the recommendation that Council just take off the 3 letters of DIS, that Council continue the municipal election contribution rebate program. And no need to speak on it. I think everyone has.
Okay, we have Mayor Collier in the speaker's line. I obviously I don't believe that was for the, maybe turn you on.
Sure was.
Yeah, your microphone's on. I just don't know where you're sitting on this. Sorry, you have the floor, Mayor, before we go to. Okay, the amendment's on the floor. Sorry. So
Perfect.
on the amendment, are there any questions? And we're going to put this up on the screen, this amendment, or?
I did want to speak to the amendment, Chair.
Okay, so on the amendment, we will go to Mayor Collier.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not going to support the amendment. I wanted to just offer clarification because I I knew the developer contribution was going to raise its ugly head again, and it did. I just want to offer a comment that there are no developer contributions. It's against the Municipal Act. It has been for the last 3 elections. Developer contributions are forbidden, and I believe we all follow the Municipal Act, and nobody accepts any developer contributions. I really resent that negative connotation. Nothing happens in this town without development, really. And that finger is always pointed. Just because some people are involved in an industry does not make them bad people. So I just wanted to point that out, that I don't judge anybody that donates to my campaign based on their profession, and I don't think anybody else should either. But any corporate checks received get promptly returned. I will not be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so the amendment is now on the screen, and basically just says that council retain the municipal election contribution rebate program. Are there any other questions on this amendment? Okay, so now we need to vote on the amendment. Okay, so now that passes. Okay, now on the main motion, which was the actual municipal elections contribution rebate program, so as amended, will moved by Regional Councillor Sterling Lee. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, just taking it one step here. If we could please vote. Okay, and that passes. Yes.
Can you move something? Can you amend something that hasn't been moved? You know what I'm saying? Because we always do it GDC afterwards. Realistically, from an amendment point, you can't, right? You can't do.
So the question for the benefit of those at home was, can a item be amended if it hasn't been moved? I think council's intent is clear that there is a desire to amend it, and so we understand council's direction.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Okay, so we can move on. So 4.7 is done. We're moving on now to 4.8 has been pulled. Updates to the Waterfront Parking Management Program, or plan, I should say. And first was Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Hanna. How are you? Say it, say it. Come on.
Just getting his microphone. It was on, sir. There.
I'm very well, thank you, Councillor.
Not living the dream? Not living the dream? How many days? No. Okay, I have a question. This has come up a couple of times now, both online and in our community meeting. It is around the renewal of the water park program as an Ajax resident. There's been some inquiries about why, if nothing else has changed, so their car plate hasn't changed, their address hasn't changed, why we simply can't send an email to them and that's saying, you know, it's that time of the year, renew, click here if nothing else has changed, and then it automatically renews. Are we ever going to get to that stage where you don't actually have to fill it out every single time?
It's a great question. Currently, no.
Thank you.
Through our third-party supplier, that's not an option. As they come out with more benefits of the program, we can opt in and out of whatever they're offering. At this time, that's not a service they offer. On behalf of the town's position, we take the ownership information and the vehicle information yearly. We also guarantee that as soon as we approve the permits, we purge all that information as a matter of security from our systems. So we don't want to hold on to it from year. You can also imagine how many people move that have entitlements that would still be able to apply for permits even though they don't live in Ajax anymore, and we'd have no way unless we went through extra loopholes to figure out who still lived in Ajax and do they still have those vehicles. It's a simple matter of uploading 2 pictures and applying and reactivating. They have those permit systems, they have those accounts. We send out reminders to them to say it's time to jump online. As an example, we don't even start the system till after April 15th. We opened it early this year. We already have 2,500 people registered for this year already. So I think it's a fairly easy system to get a free parking permit for the entire season. And we don't want to hold that information, so we delete it.
You know what I just found out too, is that you can apply through AppJax. I did not even know that was an option. One of my residents told me that. That's amazing.
So it's just another link that when
Yeah.
somebody clicks it on AppJax, it goes to that portal to give them that application.
Yeah, well,
process.
it saves people navigating through the website, so that's great. Thank you. Okay, that's a fair answer, and I'll know how to answer my residents now. Thank you.
Deputy Chief Admin, you're good? Okay. All right. Next on our speakers list for 4.8 is Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Tyler Moore, and good afternoon, Mr. Hannon. I hope you are on top of the world, living the dream, and couldn't be better. So first of all, thank you to you and your team for reviewing this program as frequently as you do. It's very much appreciated. The residents, especially who live in the area and are impacted by it, certainly think about it every year and how can it be improved or tweaked, etc. So I really appreciate that, first of all.
Thank you.
And my question is, and I know you explained a little bit of the data collection to make these 5 recommendations, but specifically, I looked up on the map where the numbers of the homes are that you've chosen as that cutoff. And did you pick that, like, sort of like just divide the street in half and south remains and north is removed, or how did you pick those numbers?
So when we went through and we looked at the streets where we could reduce those amounts, we looked at the enforcement actions on the entire street, and it would always happen that at the beginning of the street closest to Lake Driveway is where the offenses were occurring. As it got farther away, it stopped. Where we hit the magic spot to say, okay, this is the magic point, it's where the existing signage is already on the road, so we don't have to ask operations to go in and remove all those signage. It's already in place at those house numbers.
Okay.
So all we have to do is amend those signs and remove the arrows rather than having to go in and put in new
I
signage.
see. Okay. Okay, smart. Okay, that, yeah. Smart, yeah, yeah, I know. No, good, good. Thank you for that information, because I was trying to determine how, because some of them do seem quite north still. So the question I had was, were you finding that people were actually parking up that high on the streets?
Through the chair, absolutely. That's where we found the cutoff point. And like you said, we'll continue to monitor this. It's a program that needs constant monitoring. And if next year's numbers dictate any differently, then we'll make those adjustments too.
Okay, perfect. And I believe it is still 10 free guest parking passes for people who fall under the restrictions, and you've removed them for the streets that you've removed the restriction, right, on the north side?
Correct. Anybody who walks out of their house on either side, anyone who walks out of their house that has a restricted portion in front of their house for the waterfront,
Yep.
gets the 10 free waterfront guest parking permits.
And how did you find the use of those passes? Did you have any feedback from last year to this year?
So it's obviously been increasing, and we try to keep people educated through the process. We send out email reminders, but it's still not something that's actively used. Typically, the houses in that area have access of having their friends and family park on their driveways as well. I think it would be a lot different if we were doing it different areas in town where they'd have to use it because they don't have room for extra parking. But the residents, what they tend to do is they put their vehicles that have permits on the street and let friends and family park in their driveways.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I'm happy that you will continue to monitor this program every year.
Thank you.
Those are my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Next, so this was also pulled by Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask, I'm noticing here there's a comment in the report that says, relationship to strategic plan, the proposed change connect to the strategic plan through item 4.2, quote, ensure an efficient and effective service delivery. So, since being elected, and because I was not here when this was put into place, this is my first term, since being elected, I've had some questions from different residents throughout the town with regards to Lake Driveway and not being able to park there. And I'd like to know that within this review that you've done, did you look at the possibility of parking on the south side of Lake Driveway only through the process, the same process, Town of Ajax residents doing it for free. And the reason that this question kind of relates back to this is we've had one for the service, for efficiency for residents, but also a lot of residents have made comments about us not holding events down at the waterfront anymore, and I know they've been moved to Ajax Downs. We're looking at the new fairgrounds for that purpose, but there are some different events that they wanted to have still back at the waterfront. When I made inquiries to service clubs such as Rotary, why aren't we doing this or why aren't we doing that? One of the things that I was told was, until that parking restriction is lifted, we're not going to be bringing that back. So I'm wondering, looking at that wholesome piece in the full circle, was that taken into consideration when reviewing the parking restriction for Lake Driveway?
Yes, it was. It was taken into consideration that the events running between May 15th and September 15th needed to have those parking restrictions in place during that time. If a group wanted to rent before May, at the beginning of May, or after September 15th, those restrictions wouldn't be in place and they can have their events at Rotary Park as their home base. But during the season, the park is active enough and all the green space all the way running down Lake Driveway is active enough by visitors that holding events at that time was not feasible to also include free parking.
Understood, and thank you for that clarification. And what about with regards to, not related to events, but just for the convenience of our residents in general? Would, like, the entire residents in general, what was that consideration taken into effect with parking in that area?
So the Lake Driveway is all parking down one side as long as you have a permit. So Lake Driveway is fully parked from Rotary Park all the way down to Finley. That residents can park against the curb all the way down.
Oh, they can park there?
Oh, you can, absolutely. The only places that are restricted now is where the traffic calming portions went in.
Oh, only in those areas?
But that's the only,
So is
other
that
than
on the
that.
south side and the north side, or just one
No,
side?
in front of the houses, we had discussions at the time we rolled out the plan, and the residents were not keen on having cars parking into their driveways, so we left the full curb area as full parking all the way along Lake Driveway.
Oh, my apologies then. I park at Paradise Beach, so I'm not familiar with it, but I was told by residents they weren't allowed to park there.
For Lake Driveway, the majority of it is permitted parking.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You've answered all my questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Regional Councillor Joanne Dice.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. I've had a lot of questions about it. As you know, things drastically changed after COVID. There's been a huge reduction in the number of people down there. Still very popular, and the main question now is, when can we anticipate you taking signage down? Do you have any plans yet, summertime, midsummer, that kind of thing, when they would be coming down where you've made these adjustments?
For these adjustments that we
Yeah.
see now, we want them removed prior to the beginning of the 2024 season. So they would be happening between now and May 15th.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, can we vote on this, please?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, sorry.
Who is moving?
I was going to give it to, sorry, I shouldn't say give it. I was going to ask if one of the regional threes, okay. Yeah, Lisa Bauer, moved by Lisa Bauer. Councillor Bauer. Yes. I was doing pretty good, Sterling. And that carries. Thank you so much. I don't see any discussions. No presentations, no closed sessions. Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford would like to move the adjournment. Could everyone vote on that? Oh. Well done. Thank you. Wait, see if this passes. Don't jinx it. All right. Thank you, colleagues, for your, yeah.